The 1967-68 NHL playoffs were a weird expansion of what was considered original six for a number of decades. Eight teams made the playoffs, four from the expansion side and four from the original six side. Now, the first round season was the most interesting. A lot of people thought this set was going to decide the Stanley Cup, and eventually it did. Now, nobody expected this to happen, and it kind of shocked a lot of people. The Bruins were considered to be very good that year. They're going to give Montreal a good shake in the postseason. Now, he earned 84 points to finish third in the East Division. But the system at the time first played third. Montreal was first overall with 94 points, and this again was a sweep for Montreal. Now, this was the 13th playoff series between these two rivals, with the Habs winning 10 of the 12 previous series. The most recent set had come in its 58 Stanley Cup Finals, which Montreal won in 6. Now, these teams had split their 10-game regular season series. Now, ironically, Boston wasn't really a big playoff team until expansion, and although all four games were close, Montreal benefited from the fact that Philip Zito and Bobby Orr didn't score in the series. They only had 5 points between them. Now, the series opened quick at the Montreal Forum with Kenny Hodge scoring at the 4-minute mark to give Boston an early 1-0 lead. But of course, the playoff performer Henri Richard came back with a power play goal at 14:08 to put Montreal ahead 2-1. Now, ironically, Claude Provost scored in the third period, with less than 6 minutes left to seal the deal for Montreal, with the Gumper making 21 saves on 22 shots. Jerry Cheevers was solid in the Boston cage with 33 of 35 saves. Now, game two was more the same as Kenny Hodge and Jacques Lemaire traded goals in the first period. Montreal was staked to a lead by Lemaire's counter at 9:33, which Hodge following at 14:38. Now, second period was completely different than the first game. At the Forum, Jacques Laperriere, one of his rare playoff goals, scored at 4:15, with Lemaire getting a second at 9:24. Now, Teddy Green on the power play made it 3-2. Now, entering the third period, it was a back-and-forth deal. Dickie Duff scored the eventual winner at 10:24, only be followed by Johnny McKenzie's first 23 seconds later, and Jean Beliveau sealed the deal with an insurance marker at 17:34. Now, Worsley had 17 saves on 20 shots, with Cheevers getting the majority of the battling with 36 saves on 41 shots. Now, game three at the Boston Garden, although it seemed that Boston was got most of the momentum because Eddie Westfall opened the scoring at 5:15. From then on, it was all Montreal. Beneveau scored his second of the series at 15:35 in the power play, while Provo got his second of the set at 7:39 of the second, followed by Ralph Backstrom and John Ferguson. 4-1, and Tommy Williams gave a little respite to Boston, a little bit of hope, with a counter with 5 seconds left in a second. But again, Dick Duff with the second of the series, followed at 8:23, the unofficial insurance marker. Now, Cheevers stopped 28 of 33, while Worsley had 25 saves on 27 shots. Now, game 4 at the Garden, April 11th, Ides of March delayed, 0-0 after the first period, but Eddie Westfall, having a good set, scored in 49 seconds to give Boston an early 1-0 lead, but LaRose followed at 12:58 to tie it 1-1. He also had a big counter in the third period at 7:20 to give Montreal a 2-0 lead, while Ralph Backstrom scored the eventual winner at 16:32. He had a big marker in the first game and in this game as well. And eventually, he had two game winners for Montreal in that series, and he was always a money player. Now, Worsley stopped 35 of 37, while Cheever stopped 21 of 34. Now, just to break down Boston in that series, ironically, this was a set where Eddie Shack was on the team, which gave the team a little energy, but not very good for the key players on the squad. Esposito played all 4 games with only 3 assists. Johnny Busick went scoreless in 3 contests. Bobby had 2 assists, no goals. Sanderson didn't score. Freddie Stanfield was held with only 1 assist. Cashman, in limited duty, only played 1 game. And again, they're relying on substitute players like Skip Crakey, Ron Murphy, and Glenn Sather, who basically did nothing in the series. Now, ironically, Cheevers had a 3.75 average. I didn't tell the whole story. Montreal peppered them with some really hard shots in that series. So a very, very interesting look at how even a team with Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito pretty well in their early prime can be even swept by not to say an aging opponent, but Montreal had a lot of older, experienced players compared to Boston. And this is a team with Hodge, Stanfield, Sanderson, Esposito, Cashman, Busick, and he still couldn't win a game against Montreal. Just wasn't their time. And they were, as we like to say, 2 years away from their peak in 1970. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's a short story of the very interesting Montreal-Boston series from 67-68. As I call it, the first salvo of the nouveau Boston-Montreal rivalry, because from 58 to 68, it was 10 years pretty well that they weren't playing back-to-back. But can I just tell you this for a second? He lost in 68, 69, 71, 77, 78, and 79 against Montreal. Where each one had a Stanley Cup in their grasp. If Boston would have won any of those sets, you could probably won 2 or 3 more cups. But Montreal, all those cups, they had to get through Boston. So the idea is that Montreal wouldn't have won those series against Boston, obviously wouldn't have won the cup. We got 1 quarterfinal series, 1 semifinal series, 2 finals, and 1 quarterfinal, two finals, and a semifinal back-to-back. But 71, I guess, it's not just 71 where Boston came up short against Montreal. A lot of people believed the 79 team was better than the Montreal 79 team because Lafleur was getting older. Trottier had won the scoring championship. But, hockey's like that. It's a cruel mistress when it comes to it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're liking the NHL playoffs, we're having a break from the Toronto-Boston series. A lot of Boston fans don't really remember the Bobby Orr Esposito era for the bad times. There were several bad times because there was a lot of series that should have won. They were a lot better, obviously, as it went on. A lot of young players came up in the Boston system. Some of them they didn't keep, or some of them weren't ready in 68. Donnie Marcotte, Lawrence was left. Clem Tremblay never made the team. He went on to great, amateur success in New Brunswick as one of the best prospects that Boston ever had. Never made the NHL. Reggie Leach was in the mix too as well. So, but the Boston Bruins with Eddie Shack against the Montreal Canadiens, it's inconceivable. Like I said, Shack did nothing in the series, obviously, and he was always just stirring it up. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot for listening. If you like what we're doing here, we're a Boston Montreal NHL Vintage podcast. Let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.